Hello everyone, my name is Marina Saling, and today I'm going to be discussing a topic with you that most people would not like to talk about. Most people refer to them as he slash she or she slash he or its or other hurtful and discriminating names that anyone can think of. Today I'm going to be discussing the topic of transgender. Transgender, based on Transgender Employment Discrimination article, means that a person's psychological sex is at odds, or a physiological sex is at odds with its psychological sex that he or she believes that they are. Even though a Congress definition of sex discrimination is that most people are discriminated for a male being a male or a female being a female, but transgenders are left out of any kind of Congress documents most of the time because it's just now becoming a common thing of transgenders, especially since Bruce Jenner, being a very influential person, an Olympian, came out that he was going to become a transgender, and now he's Caitlyn Jenner. Most people didn't expect that coming, but now here lately it has been a very common thing. According to the Transgender Employment Discrimination, there are very different many examples that I could give you. There was one about a man called Steve, his name was Steve Stanton. He was the city manager of Largo, Florida for 14 years. The city commission planned to actually remove him right after a week of him coming out, deciding that he was going to go through with transgender surgery and turn himself into a female. And they were actually going to remove him once he announced that. So there's one example. There is another one where a woman, it was a case called Ann Hopkins, or Price Waterhouse versus Hopkins. A woman by the name of Ann Hopkins was actually a transgender, and they believed that she was actually too masculine to become partner at this accounting firm. And just because she didn't act like a woman, dress like a woman, and everything, she was a little bit too macho for them, that is the words that they use. But just because that she didn't act more like a female, they actually told her, if you would actually dress like a female, wear jewelry, and walk and talk like a female, it might actually help you become partner. And she took that to the court, and things actually looked up for the transgender people because they sided with her and decided that, she was right. They should not discriminate her for not acting a certain way. There was also a case that was called Smith versus City of Salem, and his name was Jimmy Smith. He was a lieutenant at a fire department, and he worked there for 7 years and was diagnosed with a gender identity disorder. And the people there was actually trying to make him quit working there after he had been there for 7 years, was a very good guy to all of them, and just because he had a gender disorder and wanted to be a female and came out to them, they were actually bullying him to make him want to quit. And it's because of things like that transgender people feel like they are alone in this world, and they become very depressed, and counseling becomes one of the main things that transgenders need. Their counselors is actually what they need to even have transgender surgery. They have to be able to see a counselor and have health insurance and everything. But honestly, according to National Transgender Discrimination Survey report, there has been several surveys done where a lot of transgenders can't receive medical treatment, when medical treatment is supposed to have access to any kind of individual, regardless if you're a male, female, was a female and became a male, and was a male and became a female. Healthcare is supposed to be accessed for everyone. And there's a lot of healthcare professionals that refuse treatment at all for transgenders. According to their survey, the refusal of care was 19%. The lack of provider knowledge of transgenders was 50%. In medical fields, you're supposed to actually be trained on any kind of given topic. However, I know that this has become more common here lately in the past several years, but even though it's just now becoming an issue, that all healthcare providers should look at any kind of given topic that they might be faced with, because you never know when you'll be faced with it. So honestly, 50% of transgender people have to knowledge their own provider on what to do for them. Harassment and violence in the medical setting was 28%. And the provider, if the provider knew ahead of time that they were transgenders, the likelihood of them being discriminated by them increased dramatically based on these numbers. Over a quarter of respondents misused drugs and alcohol just for being discriminated and being depressed, and 41% attempted suicide daily. And that's why counseling is such a major factor with them. Also, there was another article that I read upon that was called A Gender Not Listed Here. And surprisingly, there was a survey that 60% of the people that was born male was more likely to be feminine and everything in the transgenders, and only 40% of the female were masculine out of the whole survey. So it was more males wanting to be females than females wanting to be males in the survey that they had took. But however, I want to get back to the percentage of numbers of how many of them were discriminated. Again, I'll repeat it again, 41% attempted suicide. Suicide is a very major big deal that nobody should have to go through, and I think that everyone should be aware of transgenders and stop bullying. Thank you for your time.